Welcome back to the channel. This will be the best free hit team for double Gameweek 33, and keep your eyes peeled for the team selection as this is a double upload and recording today, so you got the best coverage for double Gameweek 33 and for FPL. And tomorrow in the deadline stream, I'll be covering all the latest injury updates, team news, locking in my final squad, and answering all your questions in an in-depth guide for several hours. So be sure not to miss it by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload or live stream for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. And of course, over the week, I was covering Matchday 14 in a lot of detail. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. My squad value is approximately 104.3 million, and with spending power, it equates to around 102.5 million. So some of you watching will have even more funds to spend and make a few upgrades as we go along, and I'll be discussing the pool of players to consider in each position. But let's start off with the two goalkeepers in this free hit squad. Your bench can be minimized and you can have just one good player there, the rest just cheap options to facilitate all of the funds in the starting 11. So you can do that if you are struggling for certain key players that you really want to cover in your 15-man squad, and also to have starting for double Gameweek 33. But let's go with the two goalkeepers to begin with and then move our way up to the more important positions. Despite blanking in 4 out of the last 5 Premier League matches, David Raya is the best goalkeeper for double Gameweek 33, facing Ipswich Town away and Crystal Palace at home, who just lost 5-0 to Newcastle, whilst Arsenal beat Real Madrid 5-1 in the Champions League to knock out the reigning European champions. But in the Premier League, they have been a bit iffy and a few 1-1 draws in recent games, and they haven't been winning enough, of course, and that's why they're some way off the top position, which they'll be hoping to achieve next season. But I think with David Raya, he is the best goalkeeper of the bunch. You look at the other options who double in 33, like Ortega, because Ederson is injured for Man City, and I just don't think the clean sheet chances are going to be as high as Arsenal's, who don't have any Champions League games for a couple of weeks. So match days 15 and 16 will be covered on this channel, but that will be in early May and also towards the end of this month. And I think Arsenal will still be trying to win these games coming up, and they can get 6 points on the board, maybe a clean sheet, and also multiple goals, which favours those midfielders I'll discuss very soon. I think it's worth doubling up on Arsenal this week. I think long term you could definitely go against it, especially for those that aren't maybe free hitting this week and are just using this as a guide to buy players with their free transfers. If you don't have the free hit in 34, it can be risky to load up on Arsenal and then all these other teams that blank in 34, so be very mindful of that. But on this free hit chip, of course, for Gameweek 33, that is not a concern whatsoever, and I think David Raya is a brilliant pick between the sticks, and I'd highly recommend him. You don't even need an expensive goalkeeper to complement David Raya. I think Areola is enough, and he could even get a return on your bench against Southampton. So if you need the extra funds, you can go even cheap to any 3.9 million goalkeeper who won't play, because David Raya will start both games in this double game week, and I think that will be enough for your squad. Crystal Palace were in amazing form, especially on their travels until double Gameweek 32, where they conceded 10 goals. So I completely understand if you want to avoid Henderson in goal, Lacroix, Munoz, despite his attacking potential, but I still think he can get a goal or assist against Bournemouth and or Arsenal, and he is a good punt for double Gameweek 33. But long term, I certainly don't mind going without any Crystal Palace assets because they blank in 34 and their fixtures afterwards aren't as appealing. But I think Munoz is still worth inclusion in this free hit team. Let me know your thoughts down the comment section below, but I think you'll certainly agree with the likes of Gavardio. I know Man City haven't been the greatest defensively this season and they have struggled to control games, but they have shown improvements recently, and Gavardio can score or assist, and even playing as a centre-back, you could say his chances of a clean sheet and also of getting bonus points are going to be boosted because they can play two out-of-position players in FPL terms, in the likes of Nico O'Reilly and Mateus Nunes, in the fullback positions, and that means if a clean sheet is kept for Man City, then Gavardio will have a better chance of getting bonus points, and we have seen that on multiple occasions. Only a few weeks ago against Man United, that was the case, and Gavardio got 9 points overall in a goalless draw. So next up is going to be another Arsenal defender, so this will be the defensive double-up I was referring to, and William Saliba is my favourite, but if you are really struggling for funds, you can settle for Kivior, who has been brilliant for Arsenal, and against Real Madrid, you could say Kivior was even better than Saliba, who made a mistake and gifted Vinicius Jr. a very cheap goal, but I think Saliba is still worth the extra millions because of bonus points over any other Arsenal defender. But you can go a bit different with these picks. Maybe Jurriën Timber, although his minutes could be managed with Ben White. And I've said that for a while, but unfortunately with Ben White, he has been suffering from a lot of injuries and hasn't been able to recover from that surgery a couple of months ago. But he was in the squad against Real Madrid. That could be a potential issue for double game week 33, while Saliba will pretty much start every single game for the Gunners. But what about that Champions League semi-final? Should certain key players be rested in the Premier League? That is certainly something that Mikel Arteta will be thinking about, but I think Saliba will start both games in double game week 33. And let's now go to the other defenders, and not all of them will start. So Wan-Bissaka is currently yellow flagged, and all the injury updates and team news will be covered in my deadline stream tomorrow. But you can go for a West Ham defender like Kilman, but if they keep a clean sheet against Southampton and you've got them on your bench, you will be kicking yourself as a result. So always kind of take that with a pinch of salt, try to balance your team in the best possible way and make some compromises if needed, especially in the case of not having enough budget to really go for your favourite starting 11, which is the most important, of course, on the free hit. And I'll complete this defensive line with Connor Bradley. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold could be back, but Bradley should start against Leicester, and you could even start him in your Game Week 33 team. But I think Munoz, Gvardiol and Saliba will be the standouts with that double game week. In terms of clean sheet odds, though, I would rank the likes of Kilman and Bradley even higher than Daniel Munoz. Eze missed a penalty against Newcastle, and that was a kind of turning point of that match. And let's not forget, Crystal Palace had multiple big chances in that game, and 5-0 was perhaps a little bit harsh, but in the end, Newcastle were clinical and Crystal Palace were quite wasteful and conceded some sloppy chances, made some individual errors at the back, and they paid the price fully. So Eze got -1 points against Newcastle, just like Daniel Munoz, and it's just unbelievable how these things can turn out in FPL. But I still think Eze is the best Crystal Palace midfielder, even over Ismaila Sarr, but either one of them will be a decent punt for double game week 33. I don't recommend either in the long term, though. I think the best time to invest in these Palace assets was in game week 30, so by this stage, it's just a 1 week punt and nothing else. Let's now go to the more exciting picks, and one of them has been playing without pain, according to himself, and he's also been getting more minutes, getting some massive returns and playing some great football in his final season for Manchester City, and that is Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's by far the best Man City midfielder right now, especially with Phil Foden struggling with injuries, and he's been out of the squad for several weeks now. So Kevin De Bruyne is definitely the best Man City midfielder by some distance. I wouldn't hesitate about it, but if you are in the market for a 9 to 10 million midfielder and your choice is De Bruyne or Saka, I would still lean towards Bukayo Saka at the moment, but it's a very close call, and I'll be covering this in my team selection because Cole Palmer is on the chopping block, and both De Bruyne and Saka are great replacements for him. Speaking of which, I would also go for Bukayo Saka, who missed a penalty against Real Madrid, but then made up for it with a cheeky goal against Courtois by chipping it over him, and he has been brilliant since a return from injury. There is still a bit of an element of him lacking match sharpness and that full pace, and I think that will come with time, and his minutes have been managed, but I could see him getting 90 minutes in one of these games in double game week 33, but not both. But it should be enough to secure a nice return, and he will be one of the best captaincy options. Very template, you could say, but I think Saka is going to be a very solid and reliable choice. He was doing very well before his injury in December, and I think he's going to get some more goals and assists from now until the end of the Premier League campaign. So he'll make for a great FPL asset, especially to replace the out-of-form Cole Palmer, who hasn't scored in 12 games across all competitions. I would also suggest an Aston Villa midfielder. Now, Marcus Rashford is very appealing. You've also got Asensio, who is second in terms of the penalty takers overall, but I would go for Morgan Rogers. I think he's the most reliable, and he's shown great form overall. Unfortunately, did blank in UCL Fantasy when I bought him in, but then again, he's been so good recently. He got the assist against Southampton, and he was part of my bench boost there. He got 2 assists against Brighton and scored against Nottingham Forest in the last couple of Premier League games. So he is the kind of reliable one in terms of minutes, and he's also getting goals and assists on a more regular basis in the last couple of weeks. And to complete this team, despite not doubling in 33, I would still highly recommend Mohamed Salah. That goes without saying. And against Leicester, arguably the worst team in the Premier League on current form, I think Salah could get a brace or a hat-trick, and if not, he can get 2 or 3 goal contributions with the assists, as he is also on course to break the Premier League record in terms of getting 20 assists in a single season, set by Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne, who you can see, of course, in this 15-man squad. I really like the look of this midfield. I know there are maybe a few maybe gripes you could have about it with Saka's minutes, Salah not having a double. You might want to go a bit different than Rodgers and go for Marcus Rashford instead. And with Eze, maybe Crystal Palace have finally found their slump and they're in terrible form right now. Can they get out of it against Bournemouth and Arsenal? I think they can get one good result in double game week 33, and the likes of Eze, who typically end seasons very strongly, could be crucial. I won't sugarcoat it. Mateta was an absolute disaster in double game week 32. The double meant absolutely nothing there because he got subbed off before 60 minutes on both occasions, and will he actually get enough game time to make him worthwhile and to make the double actually, something to really look forward to? That remains to be seen, and I'm definitely less convinced about Mateta. And if you've got enough funds, you might want to go for Ollie Watkins as this 1 week punt with Aston Villa doubling. Despite their fixtures being slightly tougher on paper against Newcastle and Man City, I still think Villa will score goals there, and Ollie Watkins has been rotated a lot recently at the expense of Marcus Rashford up front, so I don't think there are many standouts in this position. Of course, Kai Havertz is out for the rest of the season, and Marino in the midfield might also be another great shout for you, but in terms of filling up these forward slots, it does become very challenging at times, but Mateta does make it just about into this team. If you have other ideas, then let me know down the comment section below, but one player who definitely makes it into this position is Marmoush, who has been brilliant in Erling Haaland's stead with the Norwegian striker out for the next 5 to 7 weeks. I think the Egyptian can do really well and also get goals and assists in virtually most games here for Manchester City. And for double game week 33, I think only Bukayo Saka eclipses Marmoush as a captain, and that's certainly debatable because I think Marmoush is more nailed on to get those minutes, and he's also got that match sharpness about him, so that could go either way. But Saka and Marmoush for me stand out above the rest when you're looking at the captaincy. You might also want to go for Salah and forget about the double game weeks, or maybe go in a different direction. That's completely understandable, but I think Marmoush would be right up there. And to complete this team is Joao Pedro. He got a brace against Leicester in that 2-2 draw in double game week 32, and he's also an enabler. You could start him against Brentford away. He can do well, and he's been in brilliant form for Brighton recently. And I think Hurstler just absolutely loves him because he can play so many different roles. Even as an attacking midfielder, he gets those goals on a regular basis, he scores penalties, and he also can get assists and many bonus points for those FPL managers. So for that price point, he offers terrific value. He can be frustrating at times, like Morgan Rogers or Semenyo, but these players ultimately offer great value in FPL terms, and this 15-man squad is brilliant on the free hit. With all these doubles and blanks, I would highly recommend using websites like FPL.team to visualize future game weeks, your transfer plans and chip strategies, and that really helps you to kind of finalize your transfers and lock in your captaincy decisions and much more. David Raya would undoubtedly be the starting goalkeeper with a double game week against Ipswich Town away and Crystal Palace at home, but Areola is probably the best single game week goalkeeper in isolation against Southampton. Munoz, Gavardio and Saliba complete a defensive line full of double game weekers, but you could make a case of starting Bradley or Kilman over Daniel Munoz. The midfield includes Rodgers, Eze, Saka, Salah and Kevin De Bruyne, and Saka is currently the captain, and Marmoush takes the vice-captaincy with Mateta completing the starting 11. Areola, Joao Pedro, Bradley and Kilman complete a formidable bench, and you can cheap that out and only have one decent player in there like Joao Pedro or Bradley perhaps, and then spend even more money in the starting 11. Perhaps you want to go a bit different and go for Marino in the midfield and also change things up a little bit in certain areas, but that's where the comment section comes in very important. Also the Discord server, my ex Instagram Blue Sky, you can talk to me there and continue the conversation. The same goes for the deadline stream tomorrow. The expected points is 88.3, and using my own team value, I've got 0.2 million in the bank, but prices do fluctuate very quickly even at this stage of the season, so expect this to change by this time next week. But remember, this is a free hit team, so it's designed specifically for Game Week 33 only. Then your team reverts to how it was before you activated the chip, and any transfers you make before using the free hit will not go through. These are commonly asked questions in all of my FPL videos, so hopefully this does answer all your questions and you know exactly how the free hit will work. I'm planning to use it in Game Week 34, and I will be addressing this in my team selection, so keep your eyes peeled for that and the deadline stream. There could also be a reaction stream on Saturday or Sunday. If you want to see that, then let me know down the comment section below. And there we have it. The best free hit team for double Game Week 33 has been covered. there'll be yet another free hit video next week for the blank where a lot of people will be activating the chip, including myself. That is the current plan anyway, but it does make a lot of sense for those that wildcarded around Gameweek 30 or 31 and designed their team in such a way to either bench boost in 32 or in 33. There are many different chip strategies flying around, which is great to see. Maybe the system manager has been quite useful from that perspective. If you want to go for other captaincy options that are very low owned in terms of effective ownership, Kevin De Bruyne could be right up there for me. And the top 10 captains and more graphics and stats will be provided in the deadline stream tomorrow. Be sure not to miss it by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single uploaded live stream for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the other links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, FPL League, and Spotify can also be found in the description. A massive shout out goes to Napstars and Paredes once again for gifting 50 memberships in the recent UCL Fantasy deadline stream. So that's 30 across the last 2 overall. That is greatly appreciated. This thing goes to all subscribers, commenters, and those that show support to the channel. I'll see you very soon for those FPL UCL Fantasy deadline streams, and I wish you all the best of luck for Double Gameweek 33.